Hey, what you got there? Oh, just a Pachinko. 77. She's a 77. Alright, the old Bluetooth speaker is out and we're tagging this one in. It's got a little bit more functionality. It's a little bit louder, but you can also control the volume, so it's not always just a set volume on this one. And then again, it's got more functionality, so this one's going to be able to operate our magnetic ball lifter if I end up using that. As well, it has some more built-in sound effects that we can use. A lot of my designs here are incorporated into a tabletop mounting system with this Pachinko, and that has worked for what we needed to do, but we've leveled up and it somewhat limits my building capabilities. So, you know what that means. We're going to need a professional cabinet for this Pachinko. Among other builds we got going on, we're looking at doing a homemade pinball machine. That won't be a right now project, that'll be next year, but I intend to use a pinball slate from this piece right here, and then the remainder is going to be left over. So if it's going to work for a Pachinko cabinet, that is what's happening. It has to. Making a proper cabinet will help with this Pachinko as far as the whole power grid problems go. It'll be much easier to get that out of the way of any of the balls and stuff. You know, build it onto the side of your cabinet now, somewhere up here, because we're no longer putting it on the table anymore. It's going to be in the cabinet. It's going to be safe. As far as the power grid goes, a while back, I've had this old computer core here, I believe it was, and I cannot find the 12 volts in this for the life of me. I've tried everything. I've tried 3 times now. If I had simply been able to find that 12 volts, we would have had our 5 and our 3 built in right there as well, and then I would have just upgraded all of our small bulbs, like that one in there, the old style bulbs, that one in there. I would have just upgraded them to a 12 volt bulb, and then it would have been complete. So it never ends, but at least it would be awesome to get those up and out of the way. You know, raise them up a foot onto the side of the cabinet, and just allow the whole pan at the bottom of our cabinet now to be able to catch the balls, and just anything that needs to be down there would be. As well, I've still got this 3 volt battery pack hiding back here. One of my toy devices that I took apart and used for this Pachinko, it's got good circuit protection and stuff built into it, to the point where I can't figure out how to trick it into taking a little bit of a different voltage, or add or remove resistance to this thing. So I'm still trying to get 3 volts as well to put into here. Now, the Arduino has an onboard 3 volts. So that's also been part of the plan too, is that as long as I'm not loading this thing up too much, I could run potentially just that one device down there that insists on having just 3 volts. We'll give it 3 volts off of the Arduino, that's also an option. But I just really wish that I was able to get this thing going, and I don't want to have to buy another one. I don't want to have to buy anything, matter of fact. It's got to be from existing junk. And also part of the cabinet plan would mean now that I'm going to change around the whole ball pan. I want to go with the see-through design of just using some plexiglass. And then as well, in changing that around, it's just going to be way easier to build a fever mode payout mechanism onto the inside of the pan, I believe now, than it would be to use another individual lifter system. If I can find another one of these lifters, it could potentially become our main ball lifter, because this thing is actually able to move a whole lot of balls quickly. So I could still end up using that lifter, but right now that idea is out. And then I'm going to have to change around the whole ball bin up here, and I want to build in a fever mode electronic payout into the side there, and just find where we're going to come in here on top of the machine. Figure that out. Beaver mode. That'd be cool to have the ball coming. I don't know about changing around this. That's just more modifications. But even if we could just have it coming out of here somewhere and design it in a way that the balls coming off of launch don't interfere with the hole itself or anything, or maybe even the balls coming out. We'll see what happens. Actually, that's kind of a cool idea. If the two balls would smash into each other as you're launching and balls are being injected out. All the ideas, I tell ya. We're back to work. It's on. That ball tray and ball lifter apparatus is on the way out, and the cabinet is on the way in. Can't mess around anymore because I'm losing time doing things when they're not in a finished state. And if this is not going to sit on the wall right now or for the next couple of years, I imagined mounting this pachinko machine on a one-side developed wall so that the other side wasn't developed, you know, like your utility room in the basement, and you could easily access the back there without having to open up the door. I still want to be able to open up the front, but it just seems to be more of a hassle to do it that way than just to walk around to the back side and do what you need to do. My design here, or my building capabilities, have been limited as a result of having to pop this pan on and off, which again worked great for what we were doing, but I don't have a wall to mount this on that has an undeveloped side on the back side like I wanted, like I had always imagined it. And I really don't want to just mount this thing on the wall and open and close it from the front, because that's also not very practical. It's a nuisance is what it is. And although I've got all my stuff here tethered off and all my axes or movements of this thing are quick and easy, it's still not going to be as quick and easy as having a cabinet. So here's the scoop on the cabinet. I got these thick plies of wood here. What the hell is that stuff called again? Not OSB, MDF? No, not MDF. Fiberboard, whatever. It's fiberboard and it's really, really thick. So I knew it was going to have lots of weight and we wouldn't need to make it too deep. But the plan with this thing actually is that I'm not going with any kind of the wood finish anymore like you typically see on these. I'm going with aluminum checker plate, baby. I'm going to add a whole bunch of bling to the front side of this, and then we'll see what kind of decals we figured out for the sides. The top I need to leave undeveloped so that I can add the top piece to it when I'm done, but this is definitely right now going to help as far as the build goes and changing things around so that they're in more of a finished state and not flimsy, move it from one place to the next all the time. It's real. Alright, the frame itself is built, it's secured, it's centered and squared, or as square as it's gonna be. There is going to be checker plate, a nice mirror finished checker plate on the entire outside of this frame. The top piece I'm not worried about right now because there's still way too much development going on, so I'm just going to leave that for later on. Anyways, the cabinet itself is done. Looks pretty good. Had to recess some of these with the big heads, but they bling a little bit. It's not bad. Building back here, I have to make a retraction. I did end up putting 5 screws into the pachinko frame. You can see one right there now. Have to make a proper retraction because I said I wouldn't, and I did, but I realized, okay, well, whatever. Even though this wood is nicely stained now, this thing is probably never going to be coming out of this cabinet. Just to keep it in its original state, I wanted to not put any additional holes in there for obvious reasons, but for obvious reasons, it's not a traditional pachinko anymore. So as long as our play field and the facade of this pachinko machine is in fact factory standard, The minor modifications we're going to let slide this time around, but keep it mostly factory. Coming along, check that out. This thing back here is garbage now. Garbage. Alright, I'm happy with our cabinet design. It is going to work. I'm happy with how it's going to give me a whole lot more of building opportunities here as far as keeping everything clean and keeping it serviceable, maintainable, keeping it operational, all of those things, and quickly. As I said, I wish that I could put this on a partly developed wall or one side developed and just keep the cavity in the back in the undeveloped room, you know, the utility room or the rumpus room or whatever. But the cabinet is going to work just fine. It's going to help me continue this build, and it's going to look really sweet, because even though I wasn't too concerned with the way the cabinet looked at first, and I had just found this free lumber here, this material, I realized I still have some checker plate sitting in my storage shed. So we are literally going to bling the entire face of this up. This is going to allow me to hard mount my ball lifter and not have to assemble it and disassemble it every time we got to move the machine or open the machine up for some reason. I guess I'll still have to move the upper piece, which literally takes 20 seconds. But the lower piece took another minute too to vise it and unvise it or tension it up to the pachinko before and level it off. We're not going to have to worry about leveling anymore because the cabinet is leveled. And it's actually surprisingly quite square. I thought it would be a little bit more deviated than it is. But the deviance was minimal and it's quite nice and square. Progress continues. I lucked out on this thing. Literally. Like the cut down that I'm going to have to do here. You can see where the two side pieces are going to go. They go on the side of the pachinko. And then the large piece covers the entire bottom. And would you look at that? Would you just look at that? Would you just look at that? Yep. Right there is a 77. Yeah, I'm sitting here right now admiring how far we've come and how I could not have ever imagined that this project would have turned into what it did. But we are almost actually done now. Now, if you've been watching these Pachinko build videos that I've made, I want to say it was like 5 or 6 episodes ago that I said we're nearly done. Well, here's where we're at anyways. The cabinet is complete, or as complete as it's gonna get this weekend. There's still some fine tuning, some painting or staining to do here. Back onto the electronics and continuing the build. I gotta fabricate a new ball hopper for the top, and then we need to MacGyver into that or into the back of the machine somehow, how we're gonna run our fever mode. But at first I thought it was gonna be hard, and now it doesn't seem like it's gonna be as hard. The hardest part is gonna be determining where it's going to actually feed out. So I thought about somewhere up here, somewhere in here, and then I got to thinking, why don't I just use the bank vault from the other side and just make it so that our balls from the play field can't get caught up into our feeder, however we do it, but the feeder itself, when it's time to go, can actually pump balls in here, and then you're pretty much playing these two pockets, or these two tulips, sorry. So I guess another step is going to be not just the ball hopper on the top, but now our the top of the machine itself. That's gonna have our patchy counter, whatever we do. I mean, come on, it's gotta have it now. We're gonna have the built-in games and features on there too. You know, whatever other lighting. There's actually some cool fluorescent paints already that have been used on this. And so when you hit them with a little bit of black lighting, they really, really come to life. So I also, in fixing some of the paint that we have to do here, like this has always kind of been bugging me here, and the whole ashtray in general. I think I want to give this a nice tweak and just patch up some of the little scuffs that are actually on here still from the parlor. These areas have been cleaned extensively, and there's not really much more I can do for them aside from just paint over it. There was a couple little areas on the play field too as well that I wanted to touch up here, so we'll get in there eventually. But I want to try use some more fluorescent paints, change it around a little bit more. And then we also need to have our arcade decals on the side of the cabinet now. So of course that's in order. Figuring it out, we're gonna get some cricket action going here, and that's where we're at. Lots more work to do here. We're back on the backside again. It's on. Cabinet's done. Let's make a ball hopper. Yeah, I had to stop myself from cutting corners again, so I grabbed the paint. Gotta do it right. Even the backside's gotta be done right. Getting some nice gray paint in there to seal and protect and make it more cosmetically appealing. Yeah, now that the front is looking so good, I'm gonna have to get that ashtray fixed up now. There's some paint on it that needs to be patched up. The white there you see. And then it just was not the best ashtray, alike many ashtrays that came from the parlors. And there's some minor detailing there on the red too that's got to be fixed up. And development continues. It is party time. We're getting in the home stretch here. The cabinet's done. We're building into the cabinet. Got a ball hopper coming. We got a ball injector for shark fever coming. Come on, y'all.